Can you guys put in chat message? Yeah, raise hands, etc. Right. So it is going to be an interactive one because even first standard, second standard children can probably like start doing this, though they will need a lot of help. So we are all adults, so we will be able to easily like try around a few examples in Scratch. I want all of you to type this in Google or any of your search engine, scratch.mit.edu, and click the first link, which is the programming language called Scratch. Yeah, all of you have done. Anybody blogged on anything, kindly do ping me. I won't be able to see the chat message though, but you can raise hands. Hey, people who have got the things, maybe can you like bring your hands down, so that raise your hands only when you have some doubts or something to ask. So show how do I, yeah, if you could bring down your hands, it will be helpful, because there are 300 people. I may not know whether you need any help or not. Right. So I want you all to come to this website. Is there a chat box? Are you folks able to send chat messages? No?
Yes, they'll be able to send the chat to the host and the co-host.
Okay, cool. Yeah, now I see chat messages. Awesome. Like everybody on along with me, like everybody there in the Scratch page. Have you opened Scratch in your laptop, desktop, or a tab? Yes, right. So I'm getting a lot of S messages, so I'm proceeding, right? So this Scratch is a entry-level programming thing. Before we start even making something, right? Let me show you something to curiosity. This is something I did literally in 5-10 minutes just before the call. We will quickly build this game. So have you ever played such a game in your childhood? It doesn't take a lot of time in Scratch to build it. So of course I knew some basic programming, but with Scratch, like I was able to do this in 5 to 10 minutes. This will be the first game which we will also be building. It's not a very big thing. So there is a hack to this. If you see the score, yeah, at least here the score is not increasing. Yeah, now the score is increasing. So there are some issues with the code, but still I was able to build a game just like that. So this will be the first game which we will be building, and we'll be building it from the Scratch. I'll show you how to build such a game, this thing. So, and this will also explain why we chose Scratch, right? As in that the reason we are using Scratch to build some of these things is lack of like knowing a programming language or some technical jargon should not stop you from doing amazing things, right? For you to start seeing amazing results, you should be able to do very quickly. So if you click start project, this is how it will come. So are you all able to come back to the screen? So if you once you go to Scratch, if you click start project, you will see the screen. How many people are able to see the screen with this cat image? 10-15 people are able to see, right? I'm hoping that other folks are following it along. So fundamentally, if you see, right, because I was showing visual games, Scratch has a lot of easy instructions for things. So what is fundamentally a program? A program is where we tell the computer certain instructions to do, right? In our case, in Scratch, we're going to tell the program to do some animation, do some work for us, and along that, we'll build logic, right? For us to build this game, we have two important concepts. One is called actors, which is coming across as sprite. Another one is backdrop. So now we have a cat, and we have a cat in an empty backdrop. It doesn't look nice. Let's make it first quickly colorful. So click the backdrop option you have here. So see my cursor. I'm clicking the backdrop option and selecting a backdrop. So let me pick, there was an underwater theme which I really liked, right? Spaceship, pick anything, any image of your choice. So you can pick this blue sky. So now see the cat is image is, so there is an actor and there is a backdrop, right? And for us to build any games, we should at least have one actor and one background, just to for visually for it to look peacefully. You can select any actor of your choice. So instead of cat, let's say for the ping pong game, I'm going to select a ball. So you can select ball, basketball, or baseball. Select any of this. So I'm going to pick ball, and I'm going to delete my cat image. So because I just want the ball and the ball to come here, right? All of you along with me, are you able to select a backdrop from here and select a ball image for us to build a ping pong game. Ahmad Jazir is asking that tell the website name. It's called, so okay, let me again do it from the scratch. It's called scratch.mit.edu. So if you go there, you will have an option called create, start creating. If you click that, you will come to the screen which I am having. Make sense? Divya have also asked me the same thing, that you've come late and you want it. So yeah, this is, we are doing it for second time. See, come to scratch and then click the start creating budget. You will reach this thing. So because I have already, so this will be the empty screen. All I want you to do is to select a backdrop, any backdrop of your choice. So this time, let me select something else. Let's say I'm picking the underwater theme, right? So the cat is now in underwater, right? And instead of cat, let's say you want to pick an image like a ball. So now it is a ball. So you can have the ball move. We can start building game over the ball in this underwater theme. All good. How many people are able to follow it until this thing? So I've done it twice, right? How many people are able to follow it along with me? 10 people, 12, 13, 14. Okay, nice. Right. By far, see, we have not done a lot of programming. We have gotten the elements for us to build the tic-tac-toe game. We haven't think. I think one more element is missing to play a tic-tac, so ping pong game, right? What element is missing if we have to play a ping pong game here? Can someone tell in the chat message? No. Block. Yeah. So we need some sort of a block to hit the ball, right? So let's bring that as well. Tell me something here which looks similar to that block. If anything which is flat, so this I could probably take this line, or I could probably take this paddle. So I like this one over this. So you pick anything which you like. So I'm going to pick this green paddle, right? So now I have the paddle, right? So now that you have the block, now the ball has to hit the block and the ball has to bounce, right? So now we pretty much at least have the elements to do our programming. And now comes to the part of what is Scratch doing in the context of programming. So far, we haven't actually, it looks like the theme is set, but we haven't actually started doing any coding, right? Let's simply start one step at a time. So now I'm going to, I've selected the ball and I'm giving instructions for the ball, right? For even so when star, so this is like a red flag, you show it to the train, right? So when you click the red flag, I'm saying move the ball by 10 points. How many people observed that the ball moved by 10 points? Are you able to move? You're able to notice? And I also want you folks to do it by yourself. Like, we can have, we can give computer different kind of instructions. In Scratch, the instructions are split across, for each kind, there are a particular set of instructions available. Say there are motion related instructions, as in we can move the object by X steps. We can turn the object. We can make the object to random position or mouse pointer or anything. For example, let me make the ball go to mouse pointer and have it like this. So then, and I also, just a second. This is also another concept, which is if you do a command in general in programming, it runs only once. Yeah. So now you see, like the ball is moving along with my mouse. And earlier it wasn't happening because it was happening only once. And if I have to do it always, now if you see, like as soon as I'm moving my mouse, the ball is moving along with my mouse. And that is happening because we have a forever loop here, which says the ball will go to mouse pointer. If I click random position, it's going to behave weirdly like this, because now forever it is going to go to random position. I'm going to stop this. Are you able to appreciate this? Let's say I have removed the forever block now. Now, if you see, it will go only once. That's all. But if I put it in a forever block and then join it along, and then I click the green flag, the forever it's going to go to random position. That looks very weird. So let me make it at least move to mouse pointer. So now if I click the green flag, it's going to follow my mouse. So these are just some examples of how you can make different actions in or actions, how you can assign different actions to your actors in Scratch. Let me close this. Right, we don't want this thing. Right now, I want some of you guys to think the logic, what we will do to build some of these things. The first logic, in my opinion, is I would want to make the ball move all across, right? Because that is the fundamental concept in a tic-tac-toe, right? So which is there is, and how you do it in Scratch, there is an option. It says if on edge bounce, and I'm going to make this move forever, right? For example, I'm going to take the bring the forever option, and in the motion I'm going to say move 10 steps. So right, and yeah, let me put the if on edge boards as well on this thing. So now if you see, I've made the move option. There's something wrong out here, right? So if you see, all of you able to do this when star clicked, bring, so that's going to be in the event. So like bring the flag item in the event, and then bring a forever loop, and then move 10 steps if on edge bounce. So now the ball, if it hits the edge, it will bounce back and come. We have a paddle in between. The paddle is not doing much. The ball is just bouncing. Everybody try to replicate this. Click the ball icon, go to the code menu, bring the event star clicked, bring the forever loop, and go to motion and bring move 10 steps, and if on edge bounce under the forever loop. So forever, it's just bouncing now. Everybody able to do it? May I have a show of hands? I'll wait for 20 people to get this right, and then we'll go. Okay, awesome. We got it. Now, if you see, right, one of the problems is that it's moving only on horizontal direction. I want it slightly different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring another logic here, programming logic, where in the beginning, I'm going to change the direction of the movement to say 45 degrees. In this case, what's going to happen is, let me stop this and then do it. So now it's all across, right? So it is like it won't really come in any direction. So I've just slightly tilted the direction in the beginning whenever I'm clicking the, so now what is happening when I'm clicking the star, naturally the direction is changing, and also forever I am moving 10 steps, and if I hit the edge, I'll bounce back. It looks pretty close to a real tic-tac thing, but our action is pending, right? We haven't done a lot of programming for our paddle. Right, now let's come to the paddle. Let me bring the paddle to out here. So we have to do similar logic for paddle. How do we start? We again start with when star clicked. Right, again this loop has to be forever. Right, now what I'm going to do is I want to bring the X location to the mouse, or I want to bring the paddle itself to the mouse location. Right, and that we pretty much saw some time back, which is go to say mouse location, right? So if I have this thing now, if I see now my paddle moves all across, but still I haven't wrote the logic for bouncing off, right? But then I am able to move the paddle and the ball is moving all across. Again, I want you all to implement at least this logic, that implement a logic where your paddle moves along with your mouse and the ball is bouncing. And for the ball to bounce in random direction, along with the move option, you also need to build another logic where you say, when you click the green flag, point the direction in 45 degree. Like anything apart from 90 or 180 will work. Any random direction, which just makes the ball slightly move across in tilted directions. How many are tried? Can you please raise hands if you have tried? Anybody facing difficulty, do let me know. Okay, everybody have done? Amazing. Now we'll build the best part of it, right? We want the ball to bounce if it hits the paddle, right? Let's go back to the ball. I think we are in the ball. Now again, this one also has to be in the forever loop because we have to keep trying this, like we need to keep evaluate this logic forever, right? So I'm putting in the forever logic. I'm saying if the ball touches this thing, so because it's a touch, it's a sense option, right? And I'm also saying if there's something called if it does, right? It also comes in a control flows. If this happens, then this, right? So which means that if the ball does something, then do this operation. And what does that operation is a sensing operation. I'm saying if the ball touches the paddle, right? I'm saying bounce back, right? Here there's a limitation with respect to Scratch programming language. It doesn't really have an option of bounce back on a specific touch. So to hack that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to motion turn 180 degrees, and then I'm going to say move 10 steps. So this is almost same like bounce back, right? So now if you see, take some time to save it. Yeah, how many people are able to do this? If the ball is touching the paddle, then turn 180 degrees and move 10 steps. You're all able to do it. Yeah, it takes some time to realize this happened for the last time as well, but then like have some patience with respect to this thing. I'll give you my code, probably the one which I've already created and saved. That one would work. But for now, try to replicate this one. And as we save this thing, we should be able to do this logic. All good. Now we'll do the scoring logic, right? For example, again, the scoring logic is right along with the touching thing. We also want to increase the score. So let's start with creating a variable. On the variable, you can go to the variable section and create a variable called score, right? So I'm creating a variable called score, right, for this sprite only. So that it will be like ball score. And I'm gonna set the variable to 0 in the beginning of the function, right? And each time it hits, right, I'm saying turn 180 degree and move 10 steps. If the ball is touching the paddle, I'm also changing the variable to 1. Like, so basically like change variable by 1. In this case, instead of my variable, it should be score. Score is the variable I have. Okay, fine. Still not bouncing. How do we save this? Okay, I am not saving this. Is that the problem? How many are able to bounce it? How many are not able to bounce it? Can you put it in chat message? For whom it is bouncing, for whom it is not bouncing. I'm not signed in. I'm not able to save the code. Not sure whether that is the reason, but though the logic is correct. It's bouncing. For Vani, it is bouncing. For Shreyas, it's not able to bounce. For Shakti, it is bouncing. So it happens sometimes. So let me open the game slightly in the previous section. Let me just give me a second where I'll open the same thing in my yeah. This is the game which I just created some time back. So yeah. this one, it bounces, is almost the same logic. Sometimes it's just a matter of the code not working. Here the issue was, like if you see this small hack which I learned in this thing. So if I crash the ball only, then the score increases. Again, I don't know why the animation is working. Maybe my graphic card or something is wrong, or the site isn't working as expected. But it's almost the same stuff. Like just for my defense, that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But ultimately, the goal for us is to understand the logic. Right. Somebody have asked about the score, like how the scoring logic works. There are again many ways of implementing it. So one way I have done is here, if I see I have the scoring logic away from the paddle logic, where I say like first when you click the green flag, which is the beginning of the game, I'm setting the score variable to 0. And by default, you won't have this variable called score. You need to click the variable section and create a variable if you don't have one, because score is a variable which I created. So because in any game, we want to keep track of scores. So I created a variable called score. So let me create some other variable, no, new score. New score is the variable which we are creating. And see, now the new score variable is there. And I can set any, so what you can do with a variable, whenever you create a variable, you can set that variable to a number. Initially, let's say you set it to 0. And then you can also change that variable by 1, which means that adding 1 point to that variable. So score, each time I'm touching the paddle, no, I'm creating score 1. I'm adding 1 point to that game. Right, so this is the concept of game, right? So any game which you are building in scratch, like naturally, if you want to give it to show it off to people, you want to crash it, right? You want people to play, and you want people to get some scores, or like lose the game, right? This is a very simplistic version which I would recommend for beginners, right? But we can also see some advanced version of it, right? For example, let me open something. Let's say a slightly advanced version of the same game should probably look something like this. And I'm going to give you the code of this thing and make you guys uh, work it around. It's not very complex to like do, but let's play this game. Just a second. So you see here, now there is sound effects, and there is also a red line. If I fail to hit the red line, it does break. Yeah, see, the game stops. So this is slightly like more like improvised version of the same game with like slightly like more logic, right? And it's not very hard to think through. The paddle logic is almost the same thing. The only difference is these guys, instead of like following it along the thing, they allow only the X to move. Set X to mouse of X. That is the option they have for paddle. So only the x-axis is moving. So that's a restriction. So it makes the game a little more harder. And with respect to the ball, one of the things they have is when the paddle is being touched, they are changing they're giving a sound of water drop. So that's why every time the ball hits the paddle, you get a water drop sound. And you are like you're turning, instead of turning by 180-degree, you're turning by a random degree and then move 15 steps. So absolutely not a lot of change as such in the code. And then there is a stop logic where they say, again, this has to run forever. If touching red color, if the ball touches red color, then stop all. Stop all is an option you will see in the events or controls. You see here, stop all action is there. So stop all would literally stop the action. So like this, you would be able to make any game. I'll give you the link of these two. Right. In fact, I'll give you the link of all the games which we will be discussing today, so that you can try these things on your own, right? And you should be able to build such games, right? I think we are 30 minutes into the presentation, right? How many of you felt that like you were able to program something? Of course, Scratch is a programming language built for beginners, so it looks easy, right? At least some people have felt that you are able to do some programming, right? And that is the whole point, purpose of the session, that programming should not be hard for beginners, right? Every language will have its own syntax, will have its own stuff, but right, that should not stop us or discourage us from trying it. I'm still not able to figure out like why like here the if else condition isn't working that great, but yeah, now it is working. See, it wasn't working previously, but suddenly it stopped working. It takes some time to save, but even the scoring logic seems to be working fine for me now. Sometimes it just takes some time. Yeah, the compared to my previous function, this one seems to be like working better, but I won't be able to save this and give you the code because I haven't signed in this session. And I also didn't wrote the logic for stopping. Yeah, how many of you are able to, you don't have to, Divya has asked, do you have to sign in to run the game? I think you don't have to sign in, but one of the problems is if you sign in, you will be able to save this for your future reference, right? So I would highly encourage that sign in, because I have 2-3 terminals and 2-3 sessions open. So in some of the sessions I have signed in, some I have not signed in. So wherever I have signed in, I'm able to save it and send you the links, right? So you guys also should sign in and try to build this logic. At least this much, how many of you are able to follow it along, even if you just blindly copy paste what I have given? Some of you have raised hands. Anybody having any doubts so far? Any questions on any of the functional code, like, how different loops are? Not everybody understood. Okay, nice. Now let's actually go deep dive on different options we have, right? And also we'll try to connect it with like a very real life programming language like Python or C, C++. See, each programming language has some syntax as far as, because Scratch is a very visual utility. Most of its code are related to movement, looks, sound, events, control, sensing, operators, variables. Operators and variables are general programming stuff, but the top four, right? Movements, looks, sound, events, and are, what do I mean? General movement related stuff. So you can move an object by 10 steps. You can turn them. You can make any object go to a random position or mouse, or it can go to any other object. So you can make two objects come together. So naturally, the moment you start adding more objects here, all such objects will come up in the drop down, and you can make any object move to any position. For example, when I'm dragging the X position, so you see naturally the X and Y axis is changing. So each point has an X coordinate and Y coordinate in the image, which you can find here, and you can pretty much make the object go to that specific location if you want to. You can make it glide to a random position or mouse position, or you can make it glide to a specific X-axis location. So which means you can move from X to Y and Y to Z. You see, there is a jumping game, right? Games like what kind of games? The dinosaur game which you play in Google Chrome. So where the dinosaur, there are a lot of obstacles coming, and the dinosaur has to keep jump one over the other and move. So if you have to implement that, you will keep gliding the obstacles from Y to from right hand side to left hand side, and you will build control for your object. So for example, let's say you have a dinosaur image out here. You will make jumping logic for the dinosaur the moment you click a particular button, right? So it's not very complex to build such games using Scratch. You will be able to do it in 5 to 10 minutes by yourself if you practice, right? And then you can like there are commands, special commands like, if on edge bounce, like move to mouse location, specific location. You can also make the object say specific things. You can make an object say hello. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. It says hello. It doesn't make a lot of sense for the ball to say hello, but let's say you are building some other visually engaging game. You can make them say certain things, say hello, change its color, change the backdrop, such things, such visual looks you can do. If you see the ping pong game, the other complex ping pong game I showed, when the paddle touches the ball, it creates a sound, right? Let's say play sound, pop. So if touching the paddle, so now I'm also creating the sound. So if I play this now, yeah. So now I getting a sound. So yeah, so this kind of gives me a physical feel that the game is being played. I'm not sure whether you guys are hearing the sound or not. So, but like you can make such audio effects to your programs. And of course, there are events like, what should happen when you click the green flag, what should happen when you click the red flag, what should happen when the backdrop changes, or when do you want the backdrop changes. Such events are there. And there are controls. Now, from beyond controls, right, controls, operators, variables, these kind of operations you will see in any programming language, and they are a lot more important. Let's just look at our own game, what kind of controls we have, right? How to, Divya, I think a lot of people are asking doubts of enhancing the game. Kindly hold on. Let's focus on the programming language first, and we'll definitely come to this towards the end of the session. Right, no problem. Right, so some of the controls you can do is you can make at a certain point in game, you can make the just to create a extra visual effect, you can make the game wait for 1 second. I mean, depends on whether you want it or not. All right, I don't want it to wait here, but then I'm saying you can make it wait. To enhance a particular action, you can make the object move by, you can make the action repeat 10 times, or you can make an action repeat forever. For example, a lot of times the ball bouncing is repeated forever in our logic. So that is a control flow. We have if-else conditions, like where some operations we are doing only if-else. For example, if the ball touches the paddle, only then I'm playing the sound, and only then I'm turning it back, and I'm also adding the score. So the entire game of right, the sound, the score, and the ball going back is conditioned to the ball touching the paddle. Right, so all of this naturally should come under the if-else condition. So if the ball touches the paddle, because the code is for ball, so I don't really have to write ball, because I've selected ball and I'm writing the code. Right, then play sound, turn 180 degrees, move 10 steps, change the score by 1, and also show the score out here. Right, so this is the pretty much logic. So this is the beauty of if-else condition. In some cases, you may also want if condition, if this not happens, do something else, right? That also do. In our case, we don't need. Sometimes you may ask your code to wait until an event happens, or repeat an action until an event happens. All these are called control flows, and depending on different games, right, you may have to build certain things. For example, I'll show you repeat until, right? Repeat until or wait until is if you are let's say you are building the dinosaur game, you will keep the game until the dinosaur gets hurt or etc., something of that sort, or until the score reaches a particular point, right? So you can be creative and start building your own logic. But one thing with Scratch is that you don't really have to type anything, right? It's like just adding Lego blocks. If you are able to visualize the logic, you will be able to build games on your own. And there are, I have given 2-3 examples. If you, after the class, if you Google and if you search around, you will see a lot more interesting games, right? I really like the jumping game, just like how you have in Google Chrome. And then there is a spaceship shooting games. All these games are not that complex. You will be able to do it in 10-15 minutes, even if you are a beginner, right? That's really the beauty of Scratch. And not just to that, it also lays down the foundations of actual programming. So it's not just certain games or stories which you are building using Scratch. You are also able to use these concepts in an actual, like real life language or tool, like say Python or Java, and you will be able to build a career out of it, right? Because it's visual, it's a lot more entertaining. We saw variables as in that we used variables for score. Like in actual programming languages, things like variables, operators, and control flows will be a lot more used. In fact, most of programming language introduction starts with variables and operators and control flows, right? So that sometimes becomes too boring for a lot of beginners, right? I hope this one at least motivates you and gave you some confidence that you will be able to build it. So like go ahead and build few games, right? At this point, we're gonna move to Python, right? But I'm gonna hold on for the next 5 to 10 minutes if somebody wants to ask any doubts. I think Divya was asking some doubts. Anybody else want to ask any doubt? I'm gonna take it one step at a time. So Divya was asking how to add bounce motion on space bar button. So once you click the space bar, then you like bounce it. So I think that should be available in sensing when, so you have like, when space key pressed, right? Or you can put any key for that matter, Divya, when space key pressed, right? So, and you also need to bring in control flow if then, right? So if, so space key pressed, then like, turn 180. No, I don't want this. So motion, so turn 180 degrees and move 10 steps. And if you want to keep like, doing this for, I mean, if you want to keep checking this forever, like, I mean, like if you want to do it only once, you do it like this. But if you want to keep doing this, keep checking this forever at any time in the game, if you want to press, see that if space bar is pressed, the ball has to bounce back, then you need to put it like this. And you also may have to start it with the events tab. So like, let's say now if I'm clicking the thing, not just this one. Yeah. See, even if I press the space, as soon as I press the space, it is bouncing back, right? See, I'm not doing anything. I'm just pressing space. You see, it is getting bounced on space. Okay. Hey, Vivek has asked that, like, can you summarize everything from the starting to till now? Sorry, Vivek, that we can't do because I think we have done it a couple of times. If you have any doubts, you can ask. Satya, yeah, any doubts? Please don't say hi, hello. Just ask if you have any doubts. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a few questions. Like, all you folks understood some basic control flows, like what the forever loop is doing. Anybody not clear with what the forever loop is doing? Yes, no. How many of you didn't understand the forever logic? Or how many of you understood the forever logic? Like if you put something under the forever logic, what is happening? And what is the change when you don't put something in a forever logic? Understood? Okay. Cool. Yeah, the understanding is fine. A lot of people are able to tell it. Forever loop is for keep repeating the actions under it. Yeah, whatever you put it under forever logic will keep running as long as the program is running, right? And if else conditions like that, are you able to explain? So green color is the, okay, a lot of people have started joining late. Some people are asking me about the code for paddle. Paddle code is pretty simple, that all we are doing is forever the paddle is moving to the mouse pointer. So there is an option called in motion that will be go to like random location or go to mouse pointer, click go to mouse pointer and drag it into forever loop. This is all you do to do for paddle logic. Pretty much the game logic depends on the ball. Like, you're mostly writing the entire logic on how the ball functions and how the ball behaves with the paddle and the edges. That is the thing. Sultana asked, what is green and orange color? Green color refers to paddle and orange color refers to ball. How to restrict the y-axis? You don't have to. We are restricting by what do I say, edges. So if you see the code we have, like, if on edge bounds, it takes care of the fact that, like, it doesn't go beyond y-axis or x-axis. Devasena is asking, does Scratch allows us to make multiplayer games? Yes, it does. You can build like, multiplayer related games. You just need to ensure that give different controls. But single player games are easy to visualize, but doesn't mean that you can't really make multiplayer. Yes, Cat. It's a programming language with a visual interface. It is a programming language. It is created by MIT. Just give me a minute. Okay, guys. I think we've answered most of the doubts, right? So now we're gonna now it's up to you to practice some of these games and hopefully at least replicate this and build some games. We'll at this point move to Python. Even in Python, right? Okay, so slightly somebody is asking slightly doubts like this. You can probably like take it offline. This will be the last doubt which I'm answering. Vivek Gupta has asked which programming language is used to make complex games like PUBG, Temple Run, etc. Definitely not Scratch, right? See again, they are mostly if they are like if you are building a mobile application or like in a mobile game, right? You use something. So even there, if you see, there is for Android, there are different set of tools. There is iOS, different set of tools. This thing, right? And yeah, I am getting more doubts related to building games. But yeah, we'll take it off after the session. For now, we are going to go to Python, right? Just like this, I also want you folks to open a link which I'm giving you now. So it's called Python Tutor, right? Let me open this page called Python Tutor, right? Just type Python Tutor code visualizer and go back to where it comes. So most likely it will come up to this link, so Python Tutor and visualization. So if you click the first or second link, it will go to a place where you are able to visualize any piece of Python code. So everybody able to search Python Tutor in your tab and come to the screen. And if you're coming here, there is an option called show code examples. If you click that, I want you to click the intro.py. So if you click this intro, you will get this screen. You'll get something like this. Everybody with me? Type Python code visualizer and then click the first link. You click the first link, you go here and here show code examples and click intro.py. All good, we have done. Anybody else done? DJ, have you completed? Anybody not able to do this? Done. Okay, awesome. Right. See again, now we will see programming or coding in Python. In a lot of sense, I think, let's see, again, I said Scratch was actually for beginners. Beginners as in that, if you can actually teach Scratch to children in your home, in that way you will also learn some amount of programming because children will ask a lot of doubts to you. So I would definitely encourage you to try this. Build a lot of games, show it to kids around you, and they'll test your knowledge on how to build better games or even complex games. But when we join a company, when you when you write code for business use case, we don't do a lot of UI stuff. We do a lot of backend stuff, at least the kind of code which we are talking about: Python, data science, data engineering, software engineering. Let's say you won't be doing a lot of cat moving, ball moving, and paddle moving stuff. We'll be doing a lot more of variables, integers, strings, list, set, if else, control flows, etc. Some of which we did see in Scratch. I'll try to connect it back then and there, but I've still tried to my level best to give you a visual overview of stuff. So this Python tutor, once you click intro, you will be able to visualize the code. So I clicked visualization and I'm going to click next. So each line of Python code will be executed here along with what is happening under the hood. For example, when I said age equal to 26, what is happening is a variable is created called age with the value 26, right? And when I said pi is equal to 3.1459, again, a variable called pi is created with 3.14159. Do you remember that when we had a scratch example, we had a variable called score, right? And we had kept our score, right? So here in Python as well, we are creating variables. So we have like we can put any number of name and any number of any variable name and any value in it. And by default, you can have integer, string, floating point numbers, list and sets, dictionaries in Python. These are some standard things. We'll see all of them. So the above two are this one was integer. This one is a floating point number. Right? The next one is going to be a string. So S is a string with the value Rutherford Burchard Hayes, right? And now from string, we will be able to create a list. For example, if you do s dot split, it's a special operator for string. So s dot split splits the string by empty spaces. And we now got a list and we have assigned it to a variable name called tokens, where we say tokens has the value Rutherford in 0th index, Bichard in first index, and Hayes in second index. So the now counting starts from 0, 0, 1, and 2. So there are 3 words. You have 3 elements in our list when you do a string dot split. So we see the kind of data types we are talking. We are talking about integer, floating point, string, and list as a data type, right? And now you are taking that string value, the list values, and assign it to different variables. So first name, you assign it to token 0, middle name, and last name. So these are the 3 names you have. So now again, from that list, we have created 3 variables, all of which have a string value of first name, middle name, and last name, right? You can join few strings together. So now you create another string called S2, joining first name, middle name, and last name with an empty space in between. Again, you can do operations like this easily in Python. And now we are again coming to an if-else condition. So if-else condition, we briefly saw in Scratch as well. If you remember, if touching the paddle, then play a sound of pop and turn it by 180 degrees and move 10 steps, also increase the score. So the entire thing was in an if condition. See how we are doing it in Python. If s equal to s true, if the string 1 is equal to string 2, print s, else print no. Let's see what happens. See, s got printed here because string 1 was equal to string 2. Because all we did first, we were splitting that string and then we are joining that string back with empty space with like this one space column. Right? So because both of them are equal, it did print s. And then, so this was one example. The next line, if you see line number 22, we are creating a list called Beatles with some names in it called John, Paul, and George. So now Beatles list has 3 people. And this is also a way in which you can create a list. See, earlier we have created a list out of splitting the string, Richard, Bichard, Hayes. Now we have actually given the syntax of list. John, Paul, and George is the way with square brackets is how you define a list. And once you have the list, you will be able to assign. Earlier you were accessing a particular value of the list. Now we are going to add one element towards the right hand side of this list. So let's see what happens when you do Beatles.append Ringo. So what now happened is earlier we had only 3 points. See, let's go to previous steps. So we had only John, Paul, and George, right? Now, if you do Beatles.append Ringo, what suddenly happened? Like the Ringo got added towards the last point, right? And you can also do looping across Python list. That for what is looping is for each element in this list, you can do something. You can print hello plus the name in this list. So if you see for B in Beatles, print hello plus B. Hello John, because we are the first item, right? Next will be hello Paul. Third will be hello George. And then hello Ringo. So what we are doing in a loop is we are looping across this list in Python and we are printing hello followed by the item in that list. That's a definition of a simple for loop in Python, right? Coming back again, if you find it too overwhelming, it wasn't very different. So you have similar structure in Scratch, right? You had repeat 10 times. You have run something forever. If this, then do this. If this, then do this else. Wait until, repeat until. So some of these are called control flows. And vice versa, even in Python, you have different control flows. You have for loop, you have while loop, you have if else conditions, right? And this is what makes logic in Python. Right? So Mrunal Joshi has asked out by saying that what is B in this thing, right? So this is a syntax of Python where you can actually, B can be anything. But when you put it in for loop, what happens is for X in B tills print hello plus X. And this B or X literally means each item in the list. So let's go back if you're not able to visualize. Right. See again, now we are in thing. So for B in B tills, hello B. First item was John. So you see hello plus John. Right. And in the second iteration, B value will change to Paul because John has already been executed. So now you will see hello Paul. And then you will see hello George and etc. So you see the B value here is changing. Are you noticing out here? See, first B value is John here. And if you click next, hello John will be printed. Now we are in iteration 2 and B value is going to now change from John to Paul if I click next. So it got changed from John to Paul, and it will now the print statement will be hello Paul. So next is going to again B value will change to George, this thing. So this B can be anything. You can name anything out here. So we are creating a dynamic variable, just like how you have age equal to 26, pi is equal to 3.14. Here what's happening is in a for loop in Python, we create a variable dynamically, and then we can do some operations in that variable, right? And as soon as it gets executed, it will be over. Now, right, ideally this B value should be deleted. Like in the UI, they are not doing it, but B doesn't exist beyond that. So it's over once you run this loop. Right, now we create another object called tuple. One difference between list and tuple, both are like, if you see visually, both are like a list of objects, but the key difference is you can modify elements inside a list. For example, I can add an element called, I did an append called Ringo. I can change the value of row number 2. In tuple, you can't do. So in tuple is like a very static list. You can't add or modify or make any changes to tuple. So once you define, you can only like, delete it or like remove it from memory. Right, you have set object then. So set is like a list of objects but without any order. So unlike list or tuple where there's an order 0, 1, 2 and 3, in set there is no order. You just have a number, but you can add or remove items to things. So I added 18. Now if I'm removing 21, so 21 got removed out here. Are you able to see? So after tuple, I have a set, and the set one right now, right, I added 18 and I'm going to remove 21 in the next step. 21 got removed, and this is how set operates. So we have, by far, we are just looking at variables in Python for your reference. We saw integers, age is an integer, pi is a floating point, s was a string. We saw different versions of list, how to create a list from a string by splitting it, how to define a list directly as a list, how to create a tuple, which is an immutable list, like immutable as in that you can't modify that list, like that's a tuple. And then we saw set. Set is a list of items but without any order, just like a natural in mathematics how we call set, like hey, set of 4 elements or 5 elements. We can do operations like add or remove. You can see whether 9 is inside the set or 9 is not in the set. You can do such operations, but you can't ask an order in set. Sets doesn't have order. List and tuple do, right? And again we loop another right, so we can loop over all of this. You can loop over a list, you can loop over a tuple, or you can loop over a set. But the thing is, in set there is no guaranteed order, and this should be trivial for us because sets by default doesn't seem to be having any orders. Whereas if you loop across John, Paul, George, and Ringo, you can be guaranteed that first will be John, second will be Paul, third will be George, and third will be Ringo. For example, when we were running this, right? So if you see, we are moving in a logical sequence when we were running that, whereas in the context of sets, we can't really say that thing. So like 34, 9, 18, there is no inbuilt order, right? So that's how it is. Whereas if I would have iterated across ages, we should have ideally been 18, 21, 28, 20. This is the order. But the moment we converted this ages tuple to set, the order got collapsed. Right now, these are the nature of different data structures we have in Python. Depending on the use case, we want to pick the right thing. But sets are really great for understanding set membership if 18 in unique ages. So it's going to say whether 18 was actually there in the set or not. So yes, 18 was in the unique ages. There is an 18-year-old present in the tuple. So that is the message we got printed. You can do sorting in you can sort any list in Python. So we have this Beatles list, right? Beatles list has what does it has? It has John, Paul, George, and Ringo. If you sort it in alphabetical order, how does it gonna look? Right, it got sorted. G comes first, and then J, and then P, and then R. So Beatles list got sorted now. We have dictionaries as a data type in Python. So dictionaries can be used for saving key value pairs. So let's say we have a dictionary called net worth. Now let's have net worth of few popular people in the US: Donald Trump, some number; Bill Gates, some number; Tom Cruise, some number; some PhD guy, some number, right? These are the net worth of these folks. If you do it, it creates a dictionary object now. So dictionaries are key value pairs, right? You can iterate over key value pairs, like just like I said, you can iterate over list or tuple or set. You will be also able to iterate over dictionary items, as in that for each key and value, we will iterate over. For person, comma, worth and net worth dot items, if worth is less than 1 million, person is not a millionaire. This is the thing. So I think in our case, I think the Joey postdoc is the only guy I think who is not a millionaire. So we are iterating over everyone. Yeah, it actually printed, haha, Joy postdoc is not a millionaire. All other folks in our key value pair, Donald Trump, Bill Gates, and Tom Cruise, they all had net worth more than a million. So the last guy's net worth was less than a million. So we printed that this guy is not a millionaire, right? And then in dictionary, you can also do test thing. You can see whether a particular key value is there in the dictionary or not. So if Tom Cruise in net worth dictionary, print show me the money, right? So it did print show me the money, which means this string called Tom Cruise was there in the dictionary's key, right? Now, this is a very basic intro of different data types in Python, a very rough thing. If you see, compared to Scratch, right, what you had here, you had like motion objects, you had looks, you had sound. These are all variables, or these are all different data type operations which you can do in Scratch. It's very similar to that in Python. You don't do operations what you do in Scratch. Rather, what you end up doing is we can do other kind of tasks with respect to data or software engineering. And for that, we need data types, right? We need integers, floating points, string, list, tuple, set, dictionaries. These are some popular data types in Python, and they form the essence of the building logic in Python. Just like things like actors, backdrops, and this building Lego blocks make the essence of Scratch. If you have to start coding in Python or any actual real life programming language, you need to at least start with variables. Any doubts so far on variables to you folks? You can put it in the chat message. I'm gonna take a pause for 5 minutes. I'm gonna answer your doubts. Hey, okay, so nobody has any doubts. I'll does anybody has any doubts? No? Okay, cool. Right. Okay, now we'll go to slightly like advanced version of things. Right, okay. Um, so in Python, just as I said, I was introducing you to Scratch. So we have some inbuilt keywords, like keywords like false, none, true, and, as, assert. So these, so in Scratch, we were like just dragging and dropping out stuff, right? There is nothing to drag and drop in Python, but you have to actually write those commands. For example, for loop, while loop, if else condition, and that happens via few special words, right? So you use certain special words called keywords or like language definition in Python, and you can't use these keywords for variable names because if you use a very key concept in Python for a variable name, then you are essentially like destroying that concept in Python, right? So for example, for loop, else condition, if else, elif, you can't use for anything, right? So there are some basic keyword list in Python which you can't really use for. And as a programming language, in order to contain our code into building blocks, we often use functions or callables, right? You can you can encapsulate your logic into different functions, and functions are callable. So if you see, like, when I'm saying type and keyword with two parentheses, I'm calling a function, right? Right now, come back to basics of data types. So we just saw integer data type. So one is of type data science. So if you type of one, it will show us int. And each object in Python will also have a memory, like, memory as in that anything you have in any programming language has an underlying memory. So ID of one points out where that memory location is in. The goal of this session is just for you to realize that there is a memory always, right? 3.14 is a floating point. We saw a floating point example just before. Type of 3.14, if you type it, it will come across as float, and ID of 3.14 like is some number, like anything which you have, like be it string or right now integer, like everything has a value, has a type, and has a memory location in Python, right? And in Python, if you type dir and of any type or any object, you will also see a list of method you have for that specific type. And why this is important, if you remember, we did an operation called string.split in the previous operation, right? Because strings methods by default have few operations. Some of the most popular ones are split, which we saw in the last example. You can also lower a string, convert all the characters to upper cases. You can count how many times a particular substring occurs. You can find a particular substring. You can also replace the string with a particular value. So we are doing all of this here. So the variable is message equal to Python is a very important language, right? And if you want to lower it, because it's already in lowercase, nothing happened. If you uppercased it, all of them will become uppercase. If you want to count how many times I occurred here, it's going to be 2, because you see there is I here and there is I here. 2 times I occurred. If you want to see where exactly t is there, so the first occurrence of t is at the 2th position, 0, 1, and 2. So again, the value will be 2. And title casing is this. Now just uppercase the first alphabet of any word, and the last one is replace. So instead of is, replace the is with r, right? Now Python R, very important language. It doesn't really make a lot of sense from grammar point of view, but the goal is just to showcase that when you have any variable, you are able to do some basic modifications in this thing. Just like strings, in integers you can do modifications like rounding off of integers, taking absolute values, get the ceiling and floor of a value. These are basic mathematical operations which we can do on any integer value. And again, if you put any module in Python, it will give you all the mathematical functions it has for you, right? I'm gonna give you folks the link of this file so that you can try it on your own if you have free time, right, it might help you a little bit. So if you click this link and click this option of open in collab, what ends up happening is it will open up a collab session, and you can type shift enter and run all these cells one by one. So the code you have is completely functional. You should be able to play around line by line. It will first connect to server online, and then once the server is connected, you will be able to run these items in a sequence and play around. You want to, for example, one of the things which we did in the previous thing was message.spring.split, right? So if I do msg.split, it's going to split the string into a list. Python is very important language. This is an example, if you see, we saw in the previous manual. And I was just showing dir of float here. Instead of float, if you put str here, it will give you all the options you have for string. So you have like string uppercase, string low is lowercase. There are tons of tools Python gives you. This might be a little overwhelming, but if you see back, this is why I was introducing you folks to Scratch first, to see that even here it is a little overwhelming. Let's say if you are a 5-year-old kid or like 2-year-old kid, a lot of these things will be like pretty overwhelming for you, that hey, so many options, how will I understand it? But now that we are like, grown-ups, a lot of these things looks very easy for you. Just like that, even in Python, if you want to keep practicing, eventually these things will become too easy for you. But day one, yes, definitely it might look a little complex. That's why I've given you the code directly. You don't have to copy paste or memorize the code. Just run the code by typing shift enter and see what is happening and get a feel of how Python is working, right? And if you see, pretty much for your simplicity, we are not doing anything complex here. All we are doing is simply assigning a value to a variable, very similar to set score equal to 0, change score by 1, right? But as such, it is more involved. Like, this is the basics of Python. Like, only if you understand these concepts like really clearly, you will be able to do a lot. And because a lot of you will be like pretty beginners, if you don't know about any particular method or inbuilt function, so just type 2 question marks. So math module has a function called ceil, and if you want to know what ceiling does, type 2 question marks. It will open up a help value. Alternatively, you can also do help and followed by this. This should also pretty much open up the help section for this specific inbuilt functions. For a lot of inbuilt functions, if you don't know what does it do, just run this thing. Now we'll see some basic control flows. We saw it in the previous section as well. So x equal to 5, y is equal to 10. If x less than y, print x less than y. If x greater than y, print x greater than y. Else, print not sure. So basic if-else condition, similar to the game which we had built. What should it print? Should print x less than y, because 5 is less than 10, right? For loop, I said, like, you can loop over any iterable in Python. So teacher is a string. It's in Python, strings are also iterable. So if you do for item and teacher, it will mean like it will print TEACHER. That's how it works. Whereas if you have a list, you will print each item in the list. In this case, we are printing 1 into 2, 2 into 2, 3 into 2. We are also appending them to a new list and then printing that list as well. We are also printing a range from 1 to 7. So see what happens. So for item in teacher, print item. This is going to print TEACHER. For item in 1 to 3, print item into 2. It's going to do 2, 4, 6. Right. And for x in range 1, 7, print x is going to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And y7 is not printed. That's how the range command works. It starts with the starting point, but it doesn't print the last point. It's just a Python syntax. So the top 2 cells are basic definition of how an if statement, if-else condition work in Python, and how for loops work in Python, right? If you understand these two, should be able to get a flow of like basic stuff. And then you have some advanced stuff, like you can, once you have a list, you can do dynamic operations. Like, say you have a list called 1, 3, 6, 9, 7, and 19, 98. You can print for x in L, if x divisible by 3, x modulo 3 equal to 0 means we will print only those items in this list which is divisible by 3. In this case, it's going to be 3, 6, and 9, right? It got printed. Now, these two is very similar to running this. I'm creating a new list for x in L. If x is divisible by 3, new list dot append x, print new list. So both the logic is exactly the same. The above logic is called list comprehension in Python. The below logic is we are running a simple for loop and an if condition to append the elements of the original list to a new list. Right. So basic operations on like, list, dictionaries, and string. And down the flow we have operations of, like, functions, and how do we unpack and pack dictionaries. So this should give you a good flow and overview of how to start getting your feet in Python and try a few basic operations. So at some point in time in your life, you will be able to build games similar to what you have done in Scratch using Python, but not games which children will play, but probably, like, some folks have asked about like an actual games, like or somebody's asking about Chat GPT, somebody's asking about Call of Duty kind of games. For some of these games, right, you can build some backend applications using Python, right? So to build complex and advanced stuffs, if you would know Python and a strong grasp on programming knowledge, it's going to help. I think with this, I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to leave it up to doubt. And my recommendation to folks who are joining the course or not joining the course, for everyone, is first play around for the people who are completely new to programming, like, learn about Scratch, build some basic games in Scratch, build your confidence. Also understand variables, operators, and control flows really well in Scratch. Once you get a basic knack of programming and building games, I'm sure you will never stop back, right? And then you can probably go back to Python tutor and start understanding how things work in Python visually, and then probably go to the Jupyter the Collab notebook which I shared with you, and try to understand what is happening. With these resources, I believe you will have understood something about Python which you didn't knew, or something about programming which you didn't knew by the beginning of this webinar, right? That is my intention, that all of you should know some amount of programming. All of you should have some amount of confidence in building things, right? And for all the people who are scared, I would say start with Scratch. That's where like, you can build games easily, and like, build few games, 3-4 games at least build. There are a lot of resources available online through which you will be able to build games easily, right? Then go to Python. People who already know a lot of programming language, I would say spend a lot of time in pythontutor.com. There are a lot of examples. Visualize all of them, get a good idea, and then look at the code collab notebook which I gave to you, right? That would be the better way of using your time. Now we'll again take a step back and start asking doubts, and I'm going to answer doubts for the next 10-15 minutes.
Please put in your queries and questions in the chat so that he can pick it up. And we had one question, when to use list?
Hey, is that the overall question, or is there anything more to the question?
The user has asked when to use list. Yeah.
Okay, see, I mean, almost every data type which we saw in out here, right? All these data types are heavily used. I mean, there are tons of places you would use list, because ultimately you can't build logic without data structures, right? For you to build any logic, so let's say I need to send emails to all the people in this webinar. I need to save all of your details in a list or a dictionary, right? So in that way that you would use, and like, I mean, the number of use cases are infinite, that without using these data structures, you can't write software, or none of the applications which you are using today can function without list. Yeah, any other doubts?
When to use tuple?
I mean, the answer would be the same.
Okay. How to work with Python as a intern?
How to work with Python as an
Intern.
mm, I mean, it doesn't really matter whether you are intern or say full-timer, or what it is, as in that if you're asking the question that I don't know Python, how do I get started Python, that's a different. I think that is what the motive of the session is. Like, my recommendation would be spend a lot of time in Scratch, and then come to Python tutor, and see a lot of examples. There's an example section out here. Right. Once you go to the beginning of Python tutor, you will see a lot of examples like this. So go to these examples, try to understand the basics of Python, and then probably go to the GitHub gist which I shared with you. Understand that, you will get a good knack of Python, and then go about probably doing some projects in Python, which is pretty much then asking that, hey, the entire GUVI's curriculum of Python, data engineering, data science, etc. So that's how you um, learn Python and become better. But it doesn't really matter, like, whether you're intern, whether you're not doing intern, you're still in college, right? So it doesn't really matter. Like, there are people at 35 who still are like beginners. There are folks who are 13-year-old, and they have already mastered 7 programming languages. Veda has asked a very good question, which is tuple is not editable like list. Then how to use tuple? And Veda pretty much, I don't know how many people understood your question. So the question Veda had asked is, we saw that in our example that list is editable, tuple is not editable. Then why would you use tuple? In fact, the answer is there in the question itself. That is precisely in that scenario we will use tuple. In a lot of software engineering, you don't want anybody to modify that list, right? I'll give you a simple overview of this behavior, right? For example, uh, what happens when you modify a list, right? So there's a lot of unexpected side effect. Say X is mapping to 1, 2, 3, Y is mapping to 4, 5, 6. Both are list, right? Now in Python, when I put Z equal to Y, what really happens is a new object is not created for Z is equal to Y. Simply a mapping happens between the name Z to the object 4, 5, 6, right? And vice versa, when I do X equal to Z, now I again did the mapping of X to Z. So here now, if you see, both X and Y are mapping to the same list. Something interesting happens in list here. Now I put X equal to 1, 2, 3. It's a different list because I have assigned a new list. I'm not, so when you put Z equal to X or Y equal to X, this kind of an assignment happens. This looks slightly tricky for a lot of beginners, but I would say play around in Python tutor, you'll understand better. But now I'm again fixing, I'm doing Y is equal to X. So when I'm doing that, Y is going to remap to X. See, like now again, X and Y are getting mapped to the same list. Here is what the tuple example now comes to the answer of Veda's question. Why use list, right? See, now I'm doing X dot append 4. I did X dot append 4, but something unexpected happens. Y also got changed to 4 because both are pointing to the same list, right? Y dot append is also happening 5. Right now, if I do Y dot append 5, X value also get appended. So when you use list, right, sometimes right, it modifies objects which you're not supposed to modify in the first place when they both are mapping to the same item, right? So, and that happens when you assign y is equal to x or x equal to y, something like that, right? A lot of times you don't really want the list value to be modified, right? You want the list values to be static, and list values can't be static. So what do? You use a tuple. Does that answer your question, Veda? Yes, no? Yeah, thank you. Hey, Vivek Gupta have asked a question, say, the 3-word question saying version control question mark. I don't really understand the question, Vivek. Can you explain your question better? Anybody has any other doubt meanwhile? What will be the most covered tool in DS? I believe Suman is asking a question about what will be covered in GUVI's curriculum. See, I mean, you can get a detailed curriculum. I guess one of the DS, the GUVI coordinators would be able to send you the curriculum, or what do we say, the course template, like, what is covered each week. Like, there's a clear schedule of what will be covered in each week. You will be able to get it, that both for the weekend batch or weekday batch. We have like week 1, week 2 until week 28 or 30, I guess. Yeah, thank you, Suman. Okay, Vivek Gupta's question is exaggerated. He's explained where he's saying that what is the use of version control? Uh, it's not related to Python for the other folks, but I think in one of the presentation, I think Manjunath mentioned about GitHub. See, GitHub is a GitHub is a tool I would encourage all of you to use, because like anything which you are doing, even the code which I'm having, I've shared via GitHub only, right? So when you save your code via GitHub, what happens is that you can refer that for future needs. You can make modifications, you can improve that, and also over a period of time you can build your portfolio, right, using that. So that's the advantage of GitHub. Divya has said, I try to build that ball game in scratch, but my score is not getting 0 even after I stop and restart the game. Divya, I think I can answer this, but I would encourage you to try it on your own. You are pretty close. I'm quite confident that if you think some more time, you will get answer for it. Right. So when you restart the game, so okay, to explain you, if you look back my code, the code which I would have shared you, let me share my screen. In one stage, I'm setting my store to 0 when I'm starting the screen. This is what you are not doing. So hopefully, I think in your code, you don't have this stage. You probably just have this thing, and that is why your score is not getting to starting it as 0 even after you restart it. So you just need to do this. Once you do this, you should be able to do it. But yeah, I told you the answer, but I didn't want you to. For all other people who are building games, the only way you become better at is work, like keep finding, like sit on the problem, think about it, spend some time. I'm pretty sure that if you are able to build something, like you will be able to improvise on it and like do better. Like if you come this far, where you have a small obstacle, you are already capable of solving the rest, right? So spend some time and get it sorted. Ashok has asked a question where hey, Ashok, sorry, I don't really understand your question. That I think it's slightly like longer question. Yeah, sorry, Ashok, I'm not able to read through your question. Apologies for that. Yeah, thanks, Divya. Yeah, any other doubts anybody has? Sai have asked how Scratch language is used in real world. Scratch is a language used for learners. Sai, I don't think. I mean, you can build games and you can share it with people, but in my opinion, I think it is a language for learners. It is not a language for business. I mean, it is not meant for like, because you're hardly writing any code here, right? You're just dragging and drop just like kids, right? But it is a great language to understand the like, the core essence of programming without getting worried about syntax. See, come on, like the moment we went to Python, right, we had variables, we had definitions, blah blah blah. But in Scratch, you can just drag around things and learn and live with it. Yeah, Ashok Kumar, I think, yeah, Ashok has asked a problem. I think, Ashok, you are asking about a data structures and algorithm problem. Yeah, I mean, I can answer that question, but I think that is not the scope of this class. Maybe like, you can post your question offline and somebody from GUVI team will answer back. The only reason we won't pick that problem is it will not help the rest of the batch. Right? It's a specific programming question. Nothing like wrong in asking that. It is just that it will just a lot of people in the class are beginners. If we discuss the solution to this problem, it's going to confuse them. Right? Anybody has any other doubts related to programming, Python, Scratch, generally about data science? Yeah, Bala, ask. Cool. If nobody has any doubts, like I think Suman has asked something. How much programming is involved in data science? I mean, I would say quite a bit. I mean, we can't do data science without programming. So even if you don't know now, over the next 3 months or 6 months, you need to learn significant amount of programming in order to become a good data scientist. Sai has asked how data science is related to AI. I mean, in my opinion, data science and AI are almost the same thing. AI or artificial intelligence is anything where you make a machine smarter. Data science is a subset of AI, where you mostly talk about dealing with the data, how to improve, how to use data to make like non-living beings smarter. AI is a superset where you say how to make anything smarter. Now it can be with AI or without, sorry, it can be with the data or without data. Data science is the art and science of using data to improvise things, right? And in data science, you have machine learning, you have data analysis, you have a lot of other things. Bala has asked me, have you used Python for data analysis or machine learning? If so, can you provide an example of a project you worked on and the results you achieved? Looks like a good interview question. Yeah. Right. If somebody asks you this question, I think you're supposed to tell like this thing. Yes, I have used Python for a data analysis or machine learning. I've been doing this for the last 12 years. So yeah, I think I have a lot of projects where I've used data analysis or machine learning. Right. In terms of results, I think yeah, results would vary, Bala. Like when I was a beginner, like 12 years ago, like the results were different. When I'm now, the results are different. So, I mean, if somebody asks you this question, you need to have the answer for how do you answer this to them. Kazurin Mary, what is the difference between for loop in C, Java, and Python? And okay, see, there is a concept and there is like syntax, right? I think the question is like for loop, the concept is same in C, Java, and Python. The syntax and the way we apply is different, right? And be it any programming language for that matter, even Scratch to some extent, right? It has a loop. The forever is a loop. Repeat 10 times is a loop, right? The way we apply the syntax and structure, the way in which programming language operate different, but I think the essence and concept remains the same. Ashok has asked, what can be the first step to enter data science? Very differs, Ashok. Like if you are a programmer, you use programming as a anchor point to enter. If you are very good in mathematics or statistics, you use that as an anchor point to enter. If you're really confident in a particular industry or area, you use that as an anchor to enter, right? I mean, each person is different depending on what your expertise is. You will have to enter into data science using your expertise and also build things which you are not that expert in. Vivek has asked, Is it necessary to join any course or any platform for learning programming language, personality development, and most importantly, for good placements? I mean, so Vivek, again, differs for everybody, right? If I have to tell you, Vivek, like I studied at IIT Kanpur, so that like I didn't really join any like platform or anything, but then I had opportunities already available to me using because I have cracked JE, and then like IIT has its own placement cell and etc. So each person is different. I'm not saying that nobody can succeed in data science without any help. And even if you, I'm not also saying that everybody can succeed with just help, right? Ultimately, you are putting in efforts and you are succeeding. And I think that's why even GUVI calls it mentors and not really teachers. People can just mentor you, right? The effort still you have to put, Vivek. Right? If you are working hard, somebody can make easy your goal. One thing I've seen a lot of people joining GUVI for is these are working professionals. They don't have time and energy to do everything. So they come and ask the mentor what exactly they need to be doing, and people do help them, and they put in the efforts in the right direction. But still, they have to put in the efforts. If they don't put in the efforts, no mentor or no teacher can get anyone placed, right? You have to put in the efforts, but maybe having a proper curriculum and having good mentors and support might help you or make your job a little easier. Anjali has asked how many languages you have worked so far. So Anjali, I have primarily worked on languages related to data science, which is mostly Python, R, to some extent C, C++, but predominantly Python. But then there are so many tools and technologies around this. There is Spark, there is SQL. SQL, I don't know whether you would want to treat it as a language. So around this Python ecosystem is what the entire data science is surviving. And but there are tons of tools and technologies. So the technologies and tools will keep coming and going. Every 2 years or 3 years you see some tool coming and some tool going on. So that's an ongoing learning process. But languages, I would say mostly Python. Some at some point in time, maybe at college time, I knew R, MATLAB, and a bunch of other things. But the de facto ruling engine in today's world for data science is Python. If you know Python, you will survive in data science world. Kazurine has asked, can you please say some project samples using Python for college project work? You try around, Kazurine. Like, I can't really recommend anything just like that. I mean, it depends on your level of complexity. I would say it's not very hard. After if you just play around sometime, you will realize that you yourself are getting a lot more creative ideas than me. So, it will not be useful for you if I recommend anything. You look at your comfort zone, your specialities, and then search for some project. Search online, you will definitely figure out something. Suman is asking, what about TensorFlow? Suman, I don't understand the question because the question is just what about TensorFlow? I don't know what you really wanted to ask. Anjali has asked another question. Is Java also important as compared to Python in data science world? Not as much as Python, definitely. Like in the data science world, I don't think any language is even closer to Python. Java could be good as a software engineering language. Even there, I think Python is beating it out. So if you already know Java, very good, amazing. Keep it in your stack, like definitely, it's not going to harm you. But if you're going to learn everything from scratch, I would say focus on Python first. And if you're really confident in Python, then go to Java. Yeah. Suman is asking, okay, now there are a lot of questions about, what concepts to be like strong in calculus, probability, etc. See, there is no end, Suman, right? You can learn everything. But the thing is that these questions are very subjective. That I had a particular kind of specialty when I started doing data science. And I think the same questions like a lot of people have asked, nobody can answer these kind of questions as a wild card, because there are 200, 300 people in this class. Each person is going to have some strengths and weaknesses. Some guy can't simply understand any mathematics. Somebody cannot program, right? So you can't say that, hey, you need to do this thing. It depends for every person individually. Every person is unique, and every person's experience is going to be different. Simply I will tell, you need to be amazing in statistics, amazing in mathematics, amazing in programming, and you should have done tons of coursework and project work in data science. So that is a like broader thing, right? How many of you among 200, 300 would be able to do all of this? Like probably like a handful of you, right? So it's about like, understanding your current level and how you go from where you are. Okay, folks. I think, yeah, we have pretty much covered related to things. Right now, it is going more of a career related discussion, right? And I think, yeah, this is a good, probably sweet spot where we can close the call. Thank you everyone for your time, for taking a couple of hours of your busy schedule.